HMRC have published some simplified rates to make things easier to calculate the tax relief you can obtain for working from home. The HMRC flat rate makes things easier. However, for those of us living in more expensive areas, it's likely not reflective of the actual cost of working from home, in which case we can use an actual basis for calculating what can be deducted from our taxable income. The method to apply and calculating use of home as office will depend on whether the costs are fixed or variable. A variable cost goes up as a direct result of working from home. For instance, light and heat. In this case, with a variable cost, you can compare the cost without working from home with the cost when working from home, and it will be just the increment or the increase in expense which is tax deductible. Fixed costs are those that you're committed to regardless of the amount of time that you spend working from home. So these would include things like rent if you're renting, or mortgage interest if you're a homeowner, council tax, and buildings insurance. For fixed costs, we would apply a percentage based on floor area and the amount of time spent working from home as a percentage of the total amount of time spent at home. For the self-employed who are sole traders or partners in a partnership, it's possible to deduct a percentage of both fixed and variable costs in calculating taxable profits. For employees or directors, only a percentage of variable costs can be deducted from taxable profits. As a workaround, if you're a company owner, consider a rental agreement with yourself as a landlord as a way of obtaining that extra tax relief on the percentage of fixed costs. At Coleman & Co, we understand how complicated it can get, which is why we've come up with some suggested percentages. These might be useful to you, and you can compare these to your actual percentages to see how far out you are. A small percentage, like 2% of your household costs, would be applicable if you just have occasional or incidental use of your home. For instance, you're mainly on client premises, but you do a little bit of work in the evenings now and again, putting together invoices and whatnot. 5 to 7 as a percentage would be more appropriate where you consistently work from home in the evenings. So let's say you come back every evening, you're working on average between 1 to 2 hours at home, doing some administrative work, invoicing, putting together workflows for the following week and so forth. 10 to 15%, that's more substantial and would apply where you actually work part-time from home. Let's continue with the example where you work almost exclusively from home. Let's say you're involved in making things such as props or bespoke furniture, and you live in a studio flat. Your studio flat doubles up as a workshop. In that case, a much higher percentage, perhaps even as high as 50%, could be justifiable as use of home as office cost. Perhaps you're involved with a burgeoning e-commerce business and you use most of your flat for storage purposes. In that case, the higher percentage, towards 40 or 50%, again could be justified. For certain types of business, it's characteristic for a business owner to live on the business premises, to live in the office. A good example of this would be a hotelier who lives in one of the rooms of his or her hotel. In this situation, all of the items bought in the business name can be reduced by a fixed amount to provide for personal consumption of, for instance, utilities, food and drink. The standard rates are £350 if there's one occupant, £500 for 2 occupants, or £650 for 3 or more occupants. The higher the amount deducted from taxable profits, the greater the tax implication for any adjustment following an HMRC inquiry. So especially if you're claiming one of these higher percentages, consider keeping ample evidence, photographic evidence and documentary as well. The outcome of any HMRC inquiry will really hinge on the documents that you've got to substantiate your claims. Supporting explanations can provide some narrative, and it depends on how the case is being treated by the caseworker at HMRC. For using your home as an office, the type of expenses that you'll be applying the percentage to include buildings insurance, council tax, rent or mortgage interest if you are a homeowner, light and heat, repairs, and other incidental costs. Many of these costs will appear on your bank statement only, in which case the bank statement is a key part of documentary evidence to retain for at least 6 years. It's acceptable to retain your records in electronic format. I'm often asked about what tax relief can be obtained on the conversion of part of the home into a dedicated workspace. This again goes back to the garage, shed, loft area. In general, most of the build cost won't be tax deductible, not at least from your taxable trading profit. So that would include the build costs, the structural work, stud work, staircases, permanent walls and doors. However, for commercial property, it is possible to deduct features integral to the building. So that includes the heating and the lighting system. Consider as well special tax relief that would be available for energy efficiency, such as double glazing. By exception, structural alterations that are required to facilitate your work from home arrangement can be tax deductible. For instance, if you need to modify the building to accommodate specialist equipment, then you can consider that cost as something that can be deducted from your tax adjusted profits. The place that you own and live in is exempt from capital gains tax, and this can be very valuable when your property is increasing in value. So consider about keeping this intact by ensuring that the work from home area is not used exclusively for business purpose. Mixed use could be demonstrated, for instance, by having pull-out bed, which shows that that area can also be used as living accommodation. As this work from home trend continues and becomes entrenched as the norm, so the building of a dedicated home study or workshop will improve the marketability of your property. Consider also the tax benefits as explained earlier in this video infomercial. We understand that tax is often the biggest single outgoing that a business faces, so we're here to make sure that every corner is swept, and if possible, you can get the maximum tax relief from the cost of using your home as an office.